Good evening. Happy New Year. It's good to be back. At this time, if you would, please silence your cell phones and be advised these proceedings are being recorded. If you desire to address the City Council during the meeting, please complete a request to speak form available at the front desk and present it to the City Clerk. Speakers will be called upon at the appropriate time, and each person is allowed 3 minutes speaking time. And those of you that have called in, we will check with you on each item to see if you've called in for that item if you haven't already spoken with the City Clerk. So if you would, Madam City Clerk, you have a Zoom broadcasting announcement to make.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As of June 15th, the City of Grand Terrace reopened its public meetings. Therefore, tonight's meeting of January 12th is open to the public. Please be advised that face masks are required, social distancing will be practiced, and occupancy limits will be enforced. Additionally, pursuant to Section 3 of Executive Order N2920 issued by Governor Newsom, tonight's meeting will also be conducted telephonically through Zoom and broadcast live on the city's website and Channel 3. If you would like to participate telephonically and speak on an agenda item, you can access the meeting by dialing *67-1-669-900-9128, enter meeting ID number 897-2391-7030, and enter password number 966500. You will be placed in the waiting room, muted until it is your turn to speak. You may also submit your comments by sending them to ccpubliccomment@grandterrace-ca.gov. The City of Grand Terrace thanks you for taking all precautions to prevent spreading COVID-19.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. At this time, I will call to order the regular City Council meeting of January 12th, 2021 for the City of Grand Terrace. And we will be tonight closing in memory of longtime resident and former mayor, City Council member Byron Madison. There'll be more remarks during my report. At this time, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilmember Wilson, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. Madam City Clerk, may we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Allen.
Present.
Councilmember Robles. Present. Councilmember Wilson.
I am here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hussey.
Present.
Madam Mayor.
Present.
Madam Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Tonight we have a special presentation. It's the City of Grand Terrace Traffic Statistics and Homeless Outreach Update. We have with us tonight Lieutenant Brian Lane of the San Bernardino County Sheriff Department to give us that report. So, Lieutenant Lane.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members. Happy New Year to all of you. Wanted to take a few moments tonight and just go over some of the statistics, and I'll call them sort of fourth quarter of last year, because some of these slides reference data that was collected really going back to July, but we'll focus on probably the last 3 months. Harold, could I get that clicker from you? All right, I apologize for the small numbers. Even with glasses, it doesn't really help very much, but I think we'll get the idea. So each of these columns that are indicated here with these larger, taller bars, they represent each month. So they're going back to July all the way through December. We've been maintaining a lot of these statistics. And about halfway through this, probably August, September, we started focusing our traffic enforcement on some of the issues specifically with Canal and Mount Vernon. That's an ongoing problem. And we hit this pretty hard for a couple of weeks, and we can see that at Canal in August we had 35 citations. It dropped a little bit, but then it started coming back up again. It leveled out primarily because people caught on to us, and we weren't getting much activity there. So a lot of the other enforcement efforts were just shifted to other areas of the city as it made sense. But what we also started doing was really focusing on some of the speed efforts. So 22-450 references excessive speed. We started in July with 21 citations. We hit 45 in August. A little bit of a downturn in September, but then we hit 33 again, and in December we hit 48. So there's sort of a trending upward climb there of citations issued for speed in the city. So I think the guys were really, really focused on those two prime issues. And of course, we've talked about those at these council meetings, and passed that information along, and they really took it to heart. And then one of the things that we did in November, and we'll just kind of focus on here in December real quick. So we saw a huge jump in stops here. We went from 294 last month to 393 traffic stops in the city, which equates to a percentage of 33% citations. So 1 out of 3 people were issued citations. And that number was still pretty high. 128 people received citations just in the month of December for various things. And they encompass not only these two areas of speed and running stop signs or stoplights, but they run the gamut of equipment violations, lighting violations, and whatnot. So there were too many different kinds of violations there to hone in on, but I think it's a pretty significant number. How we were able to do that was because in November, we took a look at our scheduling. Loma Linda has a couple traffic units that they pay for, and those folks work a pretty set number of days per week. We shifted the 30 hours that we have for that overtime deputy that the city pays for. We shifted those days to accommodate the traffic folks' days off. So on days when they're not working in Loma Linda, they're able to sign up and work some overtime. So they come here into the city on those days and they do nothing but traffic. So a couple days a week, we've got a couple individuals that really focus on those issues. Secondarily, they'll deal with the homeless and transient issues as they come up, and then of course they're here for officer safety for the other patrol deputy that's assigned working their regular shift. So we do have that extra coverage built into that plan, but they've really been able to make a big dent, I think, in some of the traffic issues. Hopefully it's noticed. And if you care to know, in December, 25% of those citations that were issued were to Grand Terrace residents. And I don't highlight that to throw any shade in anybody or anything like that, but I think relatively speaking, it's a good number for the city. It tells me that 75% of the people out there are really sort of passing through, and they come from all over, as far away as Arizona, San Diego, a lot of LA and Orange County. So those were the folks that received a majority of those citations.
Did you say 75% of those passing through?
Yeah, they were not residents of the city based on their driver's license information. So with that, I think they've done a great job with the traffic. We're going to try to continue with that plan as long as Loma Linda doesn't have any issues or changes with what they'd like to do with their traffic folks. Now, and we'll just continue doing what we're doing in that area. But I'm pretty pleased with the results so far. Additionally on here, I threw some transient statistics in here. And just in December alone, we had 50 contacts, which is another big significant number. We went from 14 in July, 12 in September, and then a steady upward trend, 26, 46, and then up to 50. These are incidents related to homeless or transients in the city that were taken on by the regular deputy and those folks on overtime, completely separate and apart from the HOPE team activities, which I'll touch on a little bit in a slide or two. And then, of course, we have Inroads, and I'll even talk a little bit about what Inroads is if you're not familiar with them. But again, taking into account the extra time that we have, having those extra bodies, on some days of the week we have as many as 3 or 4 officers working 10 hours a day here in the city, which looks pretty heavy at times. I see posts every now and again on social media about, hey, why are there so many units at this intersection or at this house? Well, it's because of that. It's because we have so many people working in the city on certain days of the week that they're able to really take care of things in a pretty quick manner. But it looks impressive, I'm sure, to people. So we'll talk a little bit about some of those contacts. The gentleman sleeping in his car behind Woody's was something that came up. We got on that pretty quick. All of these locations on here represent people that have sort of unique stories that we've been able to capture. Woody's, that gentleman had family here in the city, and he just wasn't able to live at home, but he visited home, living out of his car. And we had a pretty good conversation with him. He seemed to understand about the appearance of sleeping in your car behind a business, and we haven't had, as far as I know, any additional contacts from him. He moved on after our contact, and like I said, we haven't really seen him since. New to you was something that was just a couple of weeks ago. It was a female that had sort of set up shop in the breezeway between the buildings of the nail salon and one other business there. And that was a situation where the business had sort of established a relationship with this person, and there was a sort of level of comfort that person had in bringing all of her wares and whatnot to that location. So I had both the Hope team and the Inroads team contact her on a day, and I think they were able to quickly resolve that situation as well, and I haven't received any other complaints about that. Talked with a gentleman at the pit stop about some of the issues that he had with people on his property, and gave him some direction or some insight into how I think he might be able to help himself with the attraction of his property. Behind the Lowbrow Tattoo Shop, that's an area that I think pretty consistently has activity. It seems to be a good place for people to sleep and do whatever. And it's more or less out of view. And I think the Hope team was able to contact the individual there and got them to move on from that location. I haven't received any complaints from that as well. And then what came up, I think last week sometime, was the individual found early in the morning right at the bus stop there at Barton and Mount Vernon. Her story was she was from out of the area in Riverside, or trying to get back to Riverside, and just decided to take a nap right there on the sidewalk. And she was there for a couple hours. City manager posed a very poignant question to me, which is, well, how could we have missed a person sleeping on the sidewalk at that busy intersection for as long as she was? And well, I really don't have a good excuse for that. I think in this particular case, this one slipped past us. But I think generally speaking, we've done pretty good at trying to identify and take quick action on some of those things that we come across. So I've touched a little bit about this paragraph here deals with what we did with our scheduling and whatnot, and just the overall effort of our deputies out there. I think it's making an impact. At least I hope it is. I hope it's seen by the city and by the residents that we're out there taking some initiative and trying to really improve the quality of life for the residents of the city, as well as quality of life for those people that we contact. They all have their stories. They all have some things in their life that they could probably use a little help with. We're trying to provide them with what resources we can, when we can, and some take us up on it and some don't. And I think we'll just keep doing that. Eventually people will accept the help. I was hoping to have the Hope team here tonight to talk about some of this stuff, but a statistic that I received from the inroads during a conference with them, their information tells them that it takes 75 contacts with an individual to get them to accept service. That's a lot of contacts. That's a long time to pass between when you first meet them and they finally decide to accept some help. And in the meantime, you know, they're doing what they're doing, and we just keep continuously trying to reinforce the benefits of them taking advantage of some of those services. Here are some of the Hope stats. These are provided by the team. Some of it points to the point-in-time count from 2020. Some of the numbers kind of speak for themselves. They made 15 contacts here in the city. 4 of those 15 were prior residents of Grand Terrace or show that they have a residence here in the city, at least based on their driver's license. Or upon arrest, when they provide emergency contact information, they list a Grand Terrace resident address. 5 of those 15 were given assistance. 6 were referred to programs. 4 were placed into housing. How long they stayed in that housing, I have no idea. 7 reported suffering from mental health issues. 6 of those reported drug use. Some have income, but yet they are so quote unquote homeless. So I thought those were interesting numbers. Again, I don't have a lot of detailed information on the Hope team's activities. They did provide us those numbers as well as this map, and again, I'll apologize for that. But this is statistical information on where the Hope team contacts the people. I've sort of zeroed in just on the Grand Terrace area here. It's a much larger map. They have a device that they carry with them that is, it's an SRE-based data program that helps them geolocate their contacts and reference them in a database. So on here, every time they contact somebody, they drop a pin, which are represented by these yellow dots. The red dots indicate what they would call encampments. They may be a group of people living in an area or just an individual that looks like they've been living in a certain area for a period of time. So there are a few encampments along here. This is Barton as it comes down from Washington and rolls down to the freeway here. We can see that right down here at the freeway is a sort of a hot spot. There's a couple encampments and where individuals have been contacted. Most of these, though, are really focused on outside the area. So Colton has a lot of contacts in their area, as well as over here on the other side of the freeway off La Cadena. The Hope team, together with this data and with the information they receive from talking to the individuals, are learning that these homeless people are really traveling. A lot of them are just traveling through the city. The woman that we checked on last week at the bus stop, again, she was from Riverside trying to get back to Riverside and needed a rest. We contacted another one this morning that was also from Riverside and trying to get back to Riverside, but she was here in the middle of the city. So there is an attraction between what the city of Colton has to offer down here off the freeway and Washington, and down here at the bottom part of the map, I think it's just off the map here next to the high school, the recycling center, which is where they're able to take a lot of the stuff that they collect and receive some money for. So this is a thoroughfare along here, along this, I think it's a wash or some sort of a pathway of some sort. That seems to be a pretty consistent spot for where the Hope team spends a lot of their time. So I just thought this was kind of important for giving a visual reference on where a lot of these folks are seen sort of broad scale. Back in November, December, I made an effort to, well, I'm not going to say I did, but we focused on trying to advertise the campaign of not supporting panhandling and homelessness in the city. This is a campaign that is not new to the department. These posters have been out for quite some time. They came out shortly after the HOPE team came into existence. It's something that they support because it offers just sort of a visual reminder to people. There's all kinds of things that come along to a city that allows panhandling to take place at their businesses. And that's the sort of visual representation of the problem that I'm sure the city would prefer not to have. However, it does occur. So this was just a way of reminding folks that it's good to help people. This is not the best way to help people. Providing them with either food or money or clothing really doesn't do much to help them long term. In fact, it entices them and provides them reasons to stay because they know they may get some help, some handouts. People will still do that, understandably. People have big hearts. They want to be able to help people, and they're just going to continue to do that, and that's great. But we went door to door with a lot of the businesses along Barton and the major streets there and passed out these posters, which are, I don't know, probably 18 by 16, something like that in size. Most of the businesses were very, very thankful in receiving them. I couldn't tell you exactly where they've posted them. If they did, on the windows to the businesses was the hope. So as folks are visiting those businesses, they would be able to see these signs again as a reminder. But nevertheless, a lot of them received them, and I also made contact with the Chamber of Commerce, provided them with the electronic version, and I believe it was their intent to forward that out to the businesses of their membership and provide that electronically to them. I do have more of these. So should people want some, if there's any business out there or entity that would like to have one of these, I can provide them to the city and they can be here for them to get. But those are something that, again, offers some additional resource on there with a phone number directly to the HOPE team, so that if there's sort of habitual or constant interactions with homeless in certain areas, then people can call that number direct. If they're not going to call dispatch direct and have a deputy come out, they can call the HOPE team and pass that information on to them, and they'll put that into their queue to try to reach out to them. Additionally, with the paper ones, we had some same-size metal signs posted. I provided those to the city, and I understand that they've been placed at sort of the four main entry points to the city. Again, just as a visual reminder to folks coming in that there may be some things that we'd prefer they not do, and again, provide some additional information for them. If they feel so inclined to help somebody, maybe they'll refer to this poster and find another way to do that. I wasn't sure if there was going to be anybody from Inroads here tonight, and I don't know if the council or any of the members are familiar with Inroads program, but I can just talk on it briefly. We did receive an informational meeting with them probably a month or so ago. It was new to me. I'd never heard of it before. The general takeaway is that Inroads is it's another network of agencies that come together, much like the HOPE team does. Different though in this case is that you have these different agencies. You have Department of Behavioral Health, Aging and Adult Services, Public Health. There's one Sheriff's Department member on a team that's really there for security, but also to help with other issues that may come up when dealing with folks. But it's to be able to provide treatment to individuals that are homeless sort of where they are homeless. So they actually go into the encampments and they provide services to them. They have a registered nurse, they have drug and alcohol counselor, and they can really deal with a large number of issues that these individuals have and sort of get them at the source. So they kind of work the same way as the Hope team does. They have a bag of tricks at their disposal that they can provide for services and means for them. And they are in the city a lot. And they are a phone call away for us. So as a deputy is dealing with somebody that they feel might benefit from inroads, they can just make a direct call to them, and they're generally pretty close, and they've come out a couple of times that I'm aware of. So again, here's the breakdown of who they have assigned to their teams. These are folks that are really, really out there to help these people that are dealing with, it may be voluntary homeless, it may be involuntary homeless, and like I said, they all have issues or stories that cause them to live in that way. For some it's a choice, some it's not. We're able to help a large number of them through these methods as opposed to direct law enforcement actions. It's not our intent or desire to arrest every homeless person. Jail doesn't necessarily benefit everybody, but we do have, because there's a sheriff as a part of the team, when those issues arise, they are able to deal with those directly and use that avenue to handle that problem. But again, that's going to be down the line once all those other avenues have been exhausted. If there's nothing else that any of those folks can do, then it might come to that. But really the goal and effort of Inroads is to provide them with help at their place and to get them to take advantage of some of those services. Again, it's a long-term deal. It takes a lot of contacts to get these people on board. It's a trust issue. And but from what I understand, they're having a lot of great success. They're very busy, but they're also very willing to help. And again, they're in this team quite a bit in the city. So with that, I think that's all of the slides that I had, and I can answer any questions anyone has.
Thank you, Lieutenant Lane. That was pretty comprehensive. Questions at this time? Councilmember Hussey, or Mayor Pro Tem Hussey.
Thanks, Lieutenant, for your information. Question and probably into a statement thing. I know you guys are doing a lot, and then this inroad project is a pretty neat thing, but do you think it'd be benefit to have, because, we have all these different boards, like, this gang task force, the community cabinet for Colton Joint Unified and all that. Do you think it'd be benefit, or do you know if the county has a committee where the cities are established, a person from the city representative, so all cities work together with the county representative on this homeless issue, and if they work with the state?
I don't have personal knowledge of that. I do believe that most cities have HOPE or homeless teams attached to them, folks that are assigned to go deal with those issues. I don't know that they come together and meet and share ideas or projects or plans with one another. It sounds like a great idea. I can talk to my HOPE guys about it and see if that's ever come up. They're involved statewide. Our HOPE team was really kind of the first at doing this, and I think a lot of people have taken their model and instituted their own programs in their own cities. And again, I don't know for certain if they're doing it or not, but I can certainly ask them about it.
Yeah, because one of the reasons why I'm asking, because I volunteer for security at our church in Colton, and there's a homeless problem right by our church. So I don't know what Colton is doing for, what their outreach is. I don't know what Fontana, I mean, we go to the League of Cities and we have, everybody's talking about homeless, and putting housing and stuff. Of course, we're a small city, we don't have that, but I was just wondering if the county had something like that for a representative from each city. Maybe Mr. Duffy could look into it or something if the council agrees on it. But, and the homeless thing, because you're saying it takes 75 times for them to reach somebody, and I know your guys' hands are tied because the LPS Act of 67 that was signed by then Governor Reagan and then go in full force until 72, which took away mandatory incarceration or to help mentally ill and then take away the problem. So our hands are tied on that thing. But I'm just wondering if you heard anything about something like that, of, you know, issues on it. So that way all the cities are together on this
Yeah.
issue instead of, well, Fontana does it this way, they do it that way. And I know the whole program, you guys probably do it in Victorville, all
We
on
do.
the same page, but you have other agencies out there. So.
Sure. Yeah, I'm not sure. I can reach out and try to find that answer for you, and if not, I'll share what I do learn with the city manager.
Okay, and then the other question, on the homelessness that we're having in contact with, you know, because when we first started on the council, I remember we always had that one homeless person. Now, of course, the population's expanding on the homelessness. What you said as far as, you know, drug dependent and everything else, what type of crimes are the homeless committing in here besides, you know, just sleeping on the streets? Is there been any property crimes, any crimes in our stores, any involvement of residents, you know, anybody getting hurt?
Yeah, well, it's hard to tell. I mean, I wouldn't be able to give you a really hard number. I'll give you a couple examples. We contacted a gentleman today that had been arrested by us 3 times in the last 5 days. Yeah, this is a habitual person in the city. I'm sure you've all seen him. I'm not going to put his name out there, but he also has ties to the city. Today, somebody called in because he was on the street somewhere completely naked. So the person that called provided us that information. By the time the deputies got there, he had put his clothes back on, so he was not committing a crime in our presence. And then the person that was there that reported it to us didn't want to actually do a citizen's arrest on him for public indecency. So we were kind of left with our hands tied on him today. Other than that, there was no immediate legal means for us to arrest him. He's not certainly immune to that, but it's things like that we find ourselves with tied hands sometimes. We understand the issues that come along with it. Public indecency certainly is one. Going to the bathroom in public, shoplifting is not uncommon. Those kinds of cases aren't all that frequent. Usually it's that we end up getting a phone call about somebody on a corner and it's kind of left at that. The person calling doesn't tell us really any more information. So we find a person standing on a corner and then we do what we do to try to get them, you know, to go somewhere else. If we can identify a crime that has taken place that somebody can point to or that we have the ability to act on, we will. But more often than not, it's just that we have to try to get their compliance and take our heed to go somewhere else.
Well, thank you.
Further questions? My question. You gave us quite a bit of information about what you're doing with traffic and with the homeless, and all very focused and a lot of attention, and I like that. Is that it, or will this continue?
Well, no, we are going to continue with the model that we have in place right now. It's not just those that we focus on. Of course, we talk about them frequently, so that's why I highlighted them. But our guys are out there, again, in force, in numbers, probably more often than they have been. And I think that overall adds a level of security, hopefully, to the city and the residents. They see more of us. It reduces our response times. It means we have more people to deal with particular issues. Officer safety is a big deal to me, and I'm pleased with the work that these guys are doing in helping each other out. We're going to continue doing this. We will deal with whatever issues come our way. They're out there looking for issues before they actually become issues, to deal with the small problems before they get big. And as these sort of critical things come to be, then we'll make sure that we keep the city informed on those. But if we're on the right path here, and I think we are, we're going to keep going. And something new may come up tomorrow, next week, next month, and we'll be there to try to address it. And we got to think outside the box every now and again to try to come up with ways of solving these big problems that aren't easy, but we're in it to do what we can for the city and the residents.
I appreciate that. I have witnessed a lot of speeding, especially between Barton between Mount Vernon and Points East. And so I hope that with the attention that you're giving it and the different ways that you're handling it, people get the idea that it's not the right thing to do to be cutting through our city, especially if they have expended rocket launchers with them.
Yeah, that was an interesting one.
I think the word needs to get out that they shouldn't be cutting through our city for any reason at all. They
Yeah.
can come and shop here and come visit friends, but
But don't bring their anti-tank missiles
don't
with
bring
them.
their anti-tank missiles, don't be speeding, don't think this is a shortcut. Anyway, I
Yeah.
appreciate your efforts and look forward to hearing more. Yeah, stop at stoplights. Oh, stoplights, people love to run those. Councilmember Allen, you had a question?
Just wanted to compliment you on your report and on well done, and I've not heard any complaints in the city on law enforcement, that's well done also. Great job.
It's good to know, thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Do we have any reordering of additions to or removal of items from the agenda at this time?
We do not, Mayor.
Okay, so we have consent calendar items. And consent calendar items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. They will be acted upon by City Council at one time without discussion. Any council member, staff member, or citizen may request removal of an item from the consent calendar for discussion. I would like to remove item 6 for a question. Are there any other requests for removal of items? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for the balance.
I'll make the motion, Mayor.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Allen for items 1 through 5, second by Mayor Pro Tem Hussey. Wow, we could vote, couldn't we?
However, this evening we are going, since we are Zooming, we are going to have
All
a
right,
roll call.
Please call the vote then.
Councilmember Allen,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson,
Yes.
Councilmember Robles. Yes. Mayor Pro Tem Hussey,
Yes.
Mayor McNabo.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Okay, item 6 was the approval, adoption of plan specifications and working details for 2021 road maintenance and rehabilitation project. And I know this is requesting authority to advertise and solicit bids for the project. Very excited that we're moving forward. However, what I want to request is that we get an update as to where we are with this whole project. A number of years back, we started it. We had plans for, I think, 5 years straight, which streets were going to have improvements, what kind of improvements. And somewhere along the line, we're not on that schedule anymore, which is understandable. There were issues with funding and all that. But I would really like to, maybe when we come back with the authorization for of the bid package, or of the bids, that we actually get a summary of where we started and where we are now, and where this 2021 project falls within the grand scheme of things.
We can certainly do that, Mayor.
Okay. So with that, I'll make a motion to approve item number 6.
Second.
Okay, and I heard Councilmember Robles with her second, so please call the roll.
And Councilmember Allen,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson,
Yes.
Councilmember Robles. Yes. Mayor Pro Tem Hussey,
Yes.
Mayor McNabo.
Yes,
Motion passes unanimously.
thank you. Next, we'll have public comment for items not on the agenda. This opportunity affords members of the public to speak on items that are not included in our discussion. And because of restrictions contained in California law, the City Council may not discuss or act on any item not on the agenda, but may briefly respond to statements or ask for a question for clarification. Also, items may have a brief response from staff to questions raised, and items may be agendized for future meetings. Are there any requests to speak during this time?
Madam Mayor, I'm going to pull the callers in so that we can identify
Very good.
what item they want to speak on.
Very good.
Mr. Eilenberg, are you on the line?
Hello.
Sir, what item do you want to speak on? Public comment, or do you
I
have
wanted to speak on public comment.
Okay,
All right, Mr. Eilenberg.
please go ahead. Mr. Eilenberg, please go ahead.
Oh, well, I'm getting a streaming of other things. Am I speaking or on public comment or no?
We are in public comment that is not tied to any item on the agenda, and you have,
Oh, great.
we have 3 minutes, so the floor is
Great.
yours.
Okay, thank you. My name is Ben Eilenberg. I work with Sunny Days LLC. We are a little concerned about the fact that on the calendar for the closed session, there's nothing about the government tort claim that was recently submitted to the city regarding the issues that have come up regarding our business license, which was issued by the city and then rescinded by the city without any reason for a permitted use by right. Ultimately, I'm reaching out to the city because with government tort claims, if they don't get resolved quickly, they start getting very expensive, according to our lawyers. And my hope is to avoid that and to be doing business with the city. So we are concerned that the city council may not be getting information from its attorneys or city planner about this. And we are hoping that the city will make sure to address it in closed session next session. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eilenberg. Are there any requests to speak during this time?
I'm going to pull in the next caller. Caller on the line, could you please identify yourself and identify what item you would like to speak on, whether it be public comment or a specific agenda item? The caller on the line, can you please hear, or can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Could you please identify yourself and indicate what item you'd like to speak on?
Yes, my name is Christine Scott. I'm with the Southern California Gas Company, and I would like to speak on item number 10, please.
Okay, we'll put you back in the waiting room until that item comes up, okay?
Thank you.
There's another caller on the line. Would you please identify yourself and indicate what item you'd like to speak on? Please unmute.
Hi, this is Mark Cloud from Southern California, Edison. Wanted to speak on item number 10.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we'll get back to those 2 callers when we get to item number 10. So we'll close public comment, and I will give our city attorney an opportunity to respond to the first caller if there's anything that you would like to say to the council at this time.
There's nothing to report at this point in time, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. All right, so we have no public hearings. Oh. And I just closed public comment. All right, I'll open public comment. We have a person here in our audience. I think we're not used to that. Juanita Odenberg. Excuse me, Juanita Odenbaugh.
never gets easy.
It's much better.
Oh, thank you. We all sound like Charlie Brown parents. I'm here very humbly, my dad, to say thank you for everything you did for the class of 2021. The Blue Mountain Hike was this Saturday. I'm just in awe, and I just wanted to come and thank you for first giving direction to Mr. Sanchez and gave him a lot of help, and he was the lead parent in this event. And as parents, we grouped together and we came together, and he really pushed forward, and I believe Mr. Duffy had a lot to do with it, so thank you for that. Thank you for the special permit for this event, and most of all, thank you for the community grant. Again, just it was a beautiful day, and I like to come here to be positive, because a lot of times in the past that I've lived here, it wasn't so positive. So it's always great to put gratitude out there. And before my kids went to school, I had to teach them all kinds of things, but the main things I always taught them was to say thank you and please. So I'm here again, humbly, just again, thank you all. I really, really appreciate it. It meant a lot to a lot of kids, and it was a great event. And with one last kid, it had to be her senior year. So thank you so much for that, and I really, really, again, just very, very grateful. And I'm sure a lot of parents are too, but I'm just speaking for myself and my daughter. And again, you guys are just great, great people. And I've lived in the city for a long time. I've known a lot of you for a long time. And one of you has been there, a great example for my daughter. And I can't thank you enough. And in trying times like this, I got to tell my kids and myself that God is in bad days, God is in good days, but God is in all days. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mrs. Odenbott. I really appreciate you taking the time to come in and share those wonderful thoughts with us. And thank you to staff for the help that you provided. All right. Any other requests?
No, Madam Mayor.
All right. I will close public comment then and return to our agenda. We have no public hearings. We do have an item of unfinished business. Item number 7 on the agenda. It's an update on Barton Road Streetscape Master Plan and request for direction to prepare appropriate contract documents to continue services with KTUA for the Barton Road Streetscape Master Plan and Michigan Street Walkability Plan. Planning and Community Services Director Stephen Weiss.
Good evening, Mayor McNamara and council members. Again, for the record, Steve Weiss, Director of Planning and Development Services. The item before you is an update to, first of all, a presentation for the Barton Road Master Plan update, and then also to prepare appropriate contract documents to continue services with KTUA for the Barton Road Streetscape Master Plan and Michigan Street Walkability Plan. To start with, the 2030 vision goal for this is to promote economic development by investing in infrastructure needed to support business attraction and retention. The focus of this planning effort addresses the multimodal challenges of Barton Road and Michigan Street, such as safety, traffic calming, non-motorized connectivity, and accessibility to neighborhood destinations. So back in August, an update of Michigan Street Walkability Plan was presented to the City Council, and tonight a similar presentation for the Barton Road Streetscape Master Plan update will be made before you by Jacob Leon, Project Manager from KTUA. So going on to that, he will make the presentation after this. The city, just as a background, the city entered into 2 contracts with KTUA. One was for the Barton Road Streetscape Master Plan, and the other was related to the Michigan Street Walkability Plan. The purpose of these contracts is for KTUA to provide the city with services relating to the streetscape and street walkability. KTUA has commenced the work under these contracts, achieving substantial progress. COVID-19 has caused unforeseen delays and continues to delay progress. It's caused substantial delays relating to property owner and community participation, and has resulted in many of KTUA's tasks under these contracts to be delayed. As a result, only some of the services have been performed, and there are still funds available on each contract to complete the remaining services for both projects. These contracts have expired. Under such unique circumstances, staff recommends that these projects be continued with KTUA in order to complete the remaining services. There is no additional cost to the city beyond what was originally approved. The recommendations would be to receive and file the Barton Road Streetscape Master Plan Design information as a progress update, and secondly, provide direction to staff to prepare the appropriate contract documents to continue with KTUA and to bring back such documents for City Council approval at a future meeting. This part of it concludes my remarks. Jacob will now provide the second part of this presentation. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them now.
Thank you, Director Weiss. Any questions at this time? All right, let's go forward.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. It's a pleasure to meet you. Council members, it's a pleasure to meet you. Happy New Year. I'm really honored to be here in front of you tonight to provide you an update, as Mr. Weiss just mentioned, on the Barton Road Thematic Streetscape Master Plan. My name is Jacob Leone. I'm with KTOA. We are an urban planning and landscape architecture firm located down in San Diego. I've had the opportunity to work all over the Inland Empire. And so I've been, again, fortunate to be partnering with you all again here in Grand Terrace. So for tonight's presentation, I'll be providing you an update as to the progress and the tasks that were completed beforehand, and to have an open conversation with the information that's presented to you tonight, so that we can close out this project, make necessary edits, and really provide a good, a foundation so you can all move forward with all the great opportunities that are present and underway here in Grand Terrace for Barton Road. And so with that, I will go ahead and proceed. This presentation will cover, I'll provide a project background. I'll go over the community engagement that was completed back into 2019. I'll go over the design concepts that we have here for you all, and then, like I said, we'll have a Q&A opportunity towards the end. So for Barton Road, the Streetscape Master Plan, when we kicked this off, it was all about, how can we guide the city, here are your representatives, to enhance the safety, comfort, and the overall design aesthetic that is super vital. Barton Road is a major corridor. It's a major thoroughfare here for the city. And Madam Mayor, I was really happy to hear you talk about how, we don't want Barton Road or Grand Terrace to just be a cut-through when the lieutenant was presenting. I think there are lots of great opportunities coming up, and I think what will be completed under this will provide some good guidance to make sure that people do stop here and enjoy and recreate and shop and spend money here in the city. We will be, part of this effort is to include design options and guidance for planters, parkway, street trees, wayfinding signage, street furnishings, and things like pedestrian scale lighting. As I just mentioned, one of the overarching goals for this thematic streetscape master plan is to welcome people and to encourage them to stop, shop, eat, and relax here within the city. The timing was really great and interesting, right? Because you had the major project that was taking place at the Interstate 215 right on Barton Road, and I'm really happy to see, as I drove by today, just the completed efforts on that, and congratulations on getting that massive project completed. But when we were coordinating with Mr. Duffy and your previous planner, Sandra, when we started this project, there were talks about, let's build up upon that and think big as to how we can transform, Barton Road. So for the purposes of this streetscape plan, we were focusing primarily between, Vivienda Avenue and just east of Mount Vernon over at Arliss Drive. So this is the focus because of, the I-25, 215 recommendations covered quite a bit, just west of the interchange right there. Something that was made really clear since I started working on this in 2019, and as you move forward, is the Midas program, the efforts that have been outlined as projects that are currently planned and in progress and in the future. I mean, it's so exciting. As an urban planner and urban designer, I'm really excited for you all and what's coming online. Things such as your Grand Terrace Town Square, the Gateway Project, the parcels along Barton and Vivienda, the Gage Canal, the multi-use linear park potentially that may take place there. And then as well as, Mr. Weiss told me that they're currently updating just the general specific plan, the areas that encompass Barton Road. So super exciting opportunities too. So you and your staff can look at creative ways to implement some of the things that will be outlined in this streetscape plan. So quick overview on existing conditions. You all know Barton Road very well, and for me as a planner, it was good to understand some of these existing conditions, understanding traffic flow, understanding the traffic signals, your key intersections, the adjacent, all the land uses and destinations that are on and near Barton Road are really important. I was very happy to see that your right-of-way, from curb to curb is very consistent. So as a designer, that is, music to my ears because that provides less of a headache. As you've probably heard back in August in Michigan Street, your right-of-way is not like it is on Barton Road. So there's a lot of good positive things going with us here for Barton Road. Understanding the sidewalk and parkways and then street lighting are all just part of the existing conditions that I had to complete when I was working throughout the project. Something that's very obvious as part of a streetscape plan is understanding the sidewalks and the parkway. So we identified where there's existing, landscape and green space, where it's just simply concrete sidewalk. It's understanding, okay, what's kind of like the precedent that's been placed already? What kind of landscaping is there? Is it good? Is it bad? What can we be inspired from? What intersections are important? Knowing, like I just mentioned, what other ongoing projects are adjacent are all really important. And I had some good conversations with Mr. Duffy over the last year, as well as Mr. Weiss, to just make sure that everything was accounted for. And for purposes of this discussion, just things that are important when we're designing certain things is understanding driveways, street lighting, sidewalks, where the sidewalk, changes from wide to narrow, and how your crosswalks are. All of those things all come together in one big picture. So I think the lesson of this field work that I completed was that there's lots of potential and there's a good bones that can be, used as we move forward. The community engagement process primarily took place in 2019. I had the opportunity to come out for your National Night Out event, and it was a phenomenal event. I think your staff did a great job getting everybody over at the Stater Brothers parking lot, and it was a fun event. We mailed out postcards to businesses and addresses 100 feet from Barton Road to encourage them to come out and participate at our booth. And we had display boards, and we also had a prize wheel just to encourage the kids and the parents to come to our booth and provide comments. We had a great evening. It was a nice hot evening. We wouldn't have expected anything less from a summer here in the Inland Empire, but people were excited. They understood exactly what we're trying to do. Let's transform Barton Road into a beautiful, safe corridor for everybody. It's very, very straightforward, and there was nothing controversial about it. As you can see here, we had display boards available for people to use stickers and just provide their preference. These visual preference boards are super important for all of my planning processes when I work throughout in different cities. And as you can see here, you can see the trends where people were liking, what they would hope to see. I provided a variety of different themes and images and styles to see how people would react to them. And you'll see how these were carried through and some of the design concepts I'll present in a few moments.
Can I ask a question about two of the pictures?
Of course, yes.
You have a large W and a large K.
Oh, yeah. So I wanted to provide a variety of styles, whether it's abstract or traditional art. And so those were just some examples of those I would consider more of the modern abstract side of things. And then I provided more traditional, like wrought ironed or monumental type of signage and art. So just to see how people reacted to those styles.
Thank you.
Of course. So the results from this community engagement event were very enlightening and not surprising actually, based on what we had heard. Enhanced sidewalks, whether they're pavers or brick or just a nice concrete score patterns, resonated really well with your community. The addition of street trees and appropriate landscaping, obviously, was also a major hit. Sidewalk art where possible. We could talk about it later, but people just like the idea of just having more art, especially along Barton Road. Wayfinding signage, a potential gateway monument, and pedestrian scale lighting also all received top votes from this event. So I was really grateful for the turnout and the feedback that we collected from this event. And we took this back, had conversations with the city, and just started moving forward with some of these design concepts, these big picture ideas for you all to consider. So now I will be presenting images for 2 sections on Barton Road. The first set of images will be for what I'm calling Concept 1. That's the section between Vivienda and Canal Street. And then I will review the second section, which is between Canal Street and Arliss Drive. Those were like the logical breaks where we could play and think about, okay, do we want different themes, a different style, just to create some variety as well. So I look forward to, hearing your comments on those. As I just mentioned, there's an opportunity to have one holistic theme or for them to vary slightly. It was also important, that was communicated to me, to build upon, right, the recent improvements from the Caltrans Interstate 215 project. And then lastly, any final decisions will come in the future when you can leverage proposed development projects, when there's a CIP project, when there's grant opportunities. Those will all come in a future time. Some of the things that I wanted to build upon were from that 215 Barton Road interchange are the enhanced crossings. You used the brick pattern throughout your crosswalks, right? And those were used again at that interchange. The black metal material theme, it was also present. Just did the type of landscaping and the rock textures and colors. That in itself sets a theme. It's a very explicit theme that was set by that project, and I wanted to build upon that a little bit, right? And then, obviously, your mountain silhouette is such a great piece to work off of too, which is part of your city logo, and you use it in obviously different pieces. So, good stuff from our team to work with. Oh, it doesn't go back. I accidentally went one. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that lag. Again, these are just some of the images that you all know very well by now of the things that our team wanted to use as inspiration. So I'll begin with that first section between Vivienda and Canal Street. This is a really important section of Barton Road because you have a major project that's taking place there. So lots of opportunities to leverage funding, but it's also going to completely transform this part of the city. And so some of the recommendations will include, different types of sidewalk enhanced pavement, street trees, of course, the appropriate street trees, right, that provide shade, but that they don't obstruct or minimize, business obstruction, landscaping, pedestrian scale lighting, and other outdoor furnishings. So if I could draw your attention to this first 3D exhibit, this is an idea, right, of what could take place along this section. We have approximately, 10 to 12 feet to work with along this section. So we begin with, providing an appropriate street tree palette. Enhanced landscaping that builds upon, again, what's been planted over at the 215, but as well as some additional recommendations that our landscape architecture team wanted to provide for you all tonight. Enhanced sidewalk paving patterns. This is critical. I don't know if it's just me because I'm a designer, but something as simple as what the paving looks like to completely transform your experience when you're walking, down a certain section of a street. So, and simply not, so it's about not just having simply concrete, but some patterns that change the feel of the place. And then something really important that I hope doesn't get taken for granted is pedestrian scale lighting that can have banners or art also attached to them. That completely helps with transforming, especially for that pedestrian experience. So here's just a second look, of how this section can take place. We're working with 5 feet of Parkway. We're working with 6 to 7 feet of sidewalk. And it really is an opportunity to just really transform that pedestrian experience along this section. The trees, the lighting, all of that comes together in one, in a perfect, beautiful world. It even benefits the drivers because now they've seen a transformation along this section of Barton Road. It slows them down and piques their interest, and hopefully it makes them, want to hang out a bit more. And Mr. Weiss wanted me to just show you, tree growth, because it's really important also to understand that we're not providing you recommendations that are going to be a burden to you in the future, that your maintenance department that can maintain them, that so they can be healthy. So obviously trees are planted relatively small nowadays. Cities and people don't spend big bucks on getting a big box tree. They will be small when they're planted, right, in the future. But over the years, 5 and then 10, through appropriate maintenance and watering, you can really have a beautiful street tree canopy here on Barton Road that I think everybody will appreciate and love. And of course, the landscaping that can take place along these areas will be obviously drought tolerant, appropriate, beautiful, without completely going into like that xeriscape feel, but still not water guzzling plants that will be a nightmare for your maintenance team in the future. Some of these trees that work well in this area, your strawberry trees, your Chinese flame tree, your Australian willow, and just beautiful types of aloes and succulents that have been proven very robust in these kind of conditions, like those orange aloes. The red Hespera aloe is one of my favorites here in the region. You have a lot of that already planted here in some of your businesses on Barton Road. And then, of course, the coast rosemary. And other types of ground cover, as you see here, also build upon the appropriate watering and theme that can all work out, together very well. And the use of DG or crushed rock, like has already been used over at the 215 interchange project, or boulders. Boulders are used so many times too, so lots of variety, lots of good opportunities. Again, I want to point out the fact that let's build upon the precedent set by the brick scoring pattern, brick paving, or a simple, smaller pattern with concrete and then tree grates all come together to really just create one holistic picture for this area. And it doesn't have to be one specific design, right, that your city can move forward with. With the space that you have available, those approximate 6 feet, you can do many kinds of scoring patterns in concrete and sidewalk patterns that future landscape architecture developers can choose from. The point is, you have the room, it's consistent, the bones are there, lots of fantastic potential there. And the tree spacing can vary. Again, if you want them a little bit closer or further spread apart, that can come down all in future times when actual design projects get implemented. And now to round out the last couple of slides, I want to review concept 2. Similar, but slightly different in terms of some of the materials that can be used. And so again, it's about providing access. This section provides access to multiple shopping centers. It also will, the recommendations will include the sidewalk, planting street trees, outdoor furnishings. And we also wanted to play with the idea of a potential gateway opportunity over near Arliss Drive, which you'll see in a moment, to welcome people as they're driving down, hopefully at an appropriate speed, into Barton Road, westward into the city. So I'll start with this. Very similar in terms of the fact that it's a straight section, but you have, and especially on the south side, you have wide sidewalks. And so another great opportunity to have just a nice, beautiful pattern, planting and street trees that really makes the experience enjoyable for people. You'll notice here that there's no brick in this example, but it's a nice, simple 3x3 concrete paving pattern. Again, all of that is flexible. And again, the use of pedestrian scale lighting and banners. And similarly, I'll show you just a couple different angles of how this section could look like of Barton Road right here. You'll see the planting changes a little bit. It's a slightly different planting palette, but all again, very appropriate for the region. You have similar trees. There's a new species that we recommended just to, if future designers wanted to switch it up a bit. And planting, again, we're in the same type of families of aloes, drought tolerant, that provide some color in the summer and spring, but that are green all year long. Very similar ground covers that have been proven to work very well within the region. And when it comes to the hardscape here, it's more about just nice concrete. There's not very much brick introduced in this section. Again, some more examples of how the sidewalk itself can be designed and implemented. site furnishings. And so, again, it's the little details all come together at the end, and it makes a difference when it's all implemented holistically. But that black metal design palette that's been used in other parts in the city, I think can work very well with Barton Road. And so, some images from vendors that you see here, everything from your trash receptacles, your benches, if you decide to have benches, bike parking, and your street lighting. Once those all have the same palette, it really helps just tie everything together. And lastly, we want to just provide some inspiration, some potential ideas when it comes to wayfinding. We wanted to build upon the mountain silhouette that's used, and so just to give a little bit of extra flair, but these pedestrian, cyclist-oriented signage examples that have major destinations on them can be explored and implemented at different parts of Barton Road. And what you see here are just some examples of how different styles can be included. And it's not about voting on specifically one of them. It's, again, to provide a menu of potential options. And we can narrow these down, obviously, once we finalize everything, but I just wanted to present them and kind of get your feedback. And then here we have opportunities to have larger monumental signages. If decided, like if you wanted to pick a section, for example, on the east end at Mount Vernon and Barton Road to have something bigger, right, more of like a gateway entrance, this style was voted as something that was supported by the community back in the summer 2019. This design can change, but here are just some examples of how that could look like. And importantly, I wanted to end the presentation. The one major thing, right, at the east end, the section between Mount Vernon and Arliss. This is where, it's a little bit downhill. We're approaching Mount Vernon, so we're kind of entering the commercial core of Barton Road and Grand Terrace. And so without affecting any of the travel lanes or affecting the sidewalks or anything, we could potentially transform, right, the space here by having, first and foremost, a center median that's planted with appropriate trees, maybe some boulders, landscaping that kind of built upon the other plants that we presented earlier. But here's where we could have something of like that bigger monumental gateway entrance to welcome people as they're moving westward on Barton Road. You can even upgrade the bike lane facilities to add green transition striping. That helps with the transit stop and kind of alert people. And overall, it could be a fun and exciting opportunity to kind of have an east gateway entrance into the city on Barton Road. So to close my presentation, again, thank you for your patience and your attention, but I just want to remind you that, there's lots of potential to transform Barton Road, whether it's piece by piece or all at once, that varies from city to city. But I think what's most important from an urban design standpoint is having a cohesive design aesthetic is the most important thing, right? So that people can see, oh, I've entered an important part of a city. It's beautiful. It's, there's obviously commitment. They care about this. So that's kind of like the message that, I want to walk away from here. Again, your consistent right-of-way is a major win when it comes to implementability. Engineers love that, and it helps with some of the design recommendations that we're working with. And again, it's exciting for everybody. Final steps will be, I am committed to closing out this project, and we will be making any necessary edits. If there's something that you didn't like or you love, I'll make sure that I work with Mr. Weiss and get that implemented. And I will be providing Mr. Weiss as well as opportunities when it comes to grants and resources out there that you could potentially leverage in the future, whether they're federal, state, local, as well as you'll have, hopefully, at the end of all of this, something to work with and leverage with any future developers and projects that may be coming online here on Barton Road. So I believe that is all. Thank you so much for your time and having me to present this information, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Leon. Your contract expired, is that what I understand? So there are services that are left unfinished at this time?
Correct, yeah. We're essentially towards the end of the project. We've completed the bulk of it. It's just that it's coming down to any edits that my team will need to make based on tonight's presentation, and just ensuring that everything gets all tidied up in a nice report for you all. That's also already underway.
Thank you. Okay, Councilmember Robles.
When was the council going to
That's part of what I'm here tonight for. We wanted to, get to a point where this is what we heard from the community. This is what, from our perspective, could be implemented. And like I said, I'm here open ears. It's an open discussion. Nothing is set in stone. And like I said, I'm happy to take your comments and take notes on any of that.
Do you have comments?
Yeah, because when I pushed for this, I thought we were going to have a little bit more input, but, of course, everything that the community has recommended is keeping, what I thought about, but I'm a little bit concerned about doing too much hardscape that looks like the entry of the city.
Okay.
I also am a little bit concerned about using that same scheme of trees throughout the city. I mean, somewhere in the mid-'80s, there was a specific plan, and there were trees similar to that. Some appeared in new development, and then they disappeared, and then they were never part of any specific, you never saw them anymore when anybody built. I text to you a couple pictures, I don't know if they can go up, but the community of Verrado in Buckeye, Arizona.
Okay.
So they have a hillscape like us, and they're very arid like us, and they use some pretty tall palm trees. And for us, like during Christmas, we decorate our poles with banners, and they do some stunning things with that. The palm treescape has gotten a lot of awards. It's a very desirable community. Because the problem I have is we're not like a Pasadena or a Redlands. We don't have a downtown core where I think that streetscape kind of lends itself to. And we have a lot of big grocery stores, drugstores. We don't really have a walking retail. It's more you drive in for those kinds of things. And on a purchase thing, I'd rather have a little less brick and more landscaping for that, and to try to pull in the street lighting, wherever we could, because I know it's probably very expensive. And I would imagine, I don't know what Lewis is doing for theirs, but if they're going to have a Santa Barbara kind of style, I would imagine it's going to be palm trees. So I'd like to kind of tie into something like that. So that's my input.
Councilmember Robles, thank you so much for that feedback. I do appreciate you voicing the concerns or your opinions on the palm trees. And that's something I would love to hear from other people as well. I will give you a perspective from a consultant side of things. We come from a background of looking at it holistically as well. And so palm trees, other than the aesthetics of it, don't do much in terms of carbon sequestration, providing a nice urban canopy, forest, as well as the shade aspect of that many people value in these parts. So if I'm happy to make edits to the tree palette, I can add a palm if you would like me to.
Well, not a palm, because we've done a lot of effort for our canopy throughout the city. So I would look at this as more like asking for palm trees as an offset to what we've already done. That's just for the canopy and for the.
So you're saying I apologize. You do not want palms, or you do want palms?
No, I thought you said one palm. What more than one?
I think he was adding it to the palette of trees.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was just thinking if something that would be. I mean, we really don't have much. I mean, if because you're stopping at Arliss.
Yes.
So pretty much, if you did palms and they're separated, because as far as tree canopy and greenhouse things, we've done a really excellent job in all our other corridors of addressing that. So this would be our splurge, I would think.
Great. Well, thank you for the feedback.
Councilmember Allen.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks for that report. And a couple of comments that I have, I noticed on your entry monument samples that you have 3 of them, well, two of them, everything's printed, you have to turn your head sideways. Is there, and I don't know if there's a method to your madness there, but I'm not particularly keen on that. So I think it would be more of a distraction, and I would like to see a monument sign, entry monument sign with, directions to locations, but one where you didn't have to turn sideways.
No problem at all.
And regarding trees, my idea for trees is providing the canopy, the shade, and but also one that's as low maintenance as possible, and doesn't require a lot of water,
Absolutely.
So fairly drought tolerant, but also something that's more native to our region. And while I appreciate palm trees and all trees, and I actually have a couple of palm trees, I don't believe they're native to our actual environment here. I like the type of full trees that provide like you say, a canopy. But anyway, that's down the road. Thank you.
Of course. And again, this being a thematic streetscape plan, there's nothing, we're not doing construction documents, so what I can do is I can add an appropriate, what we call architectural palm that many cities to use as an option if you would like to, while keeping these appropriate trees that work well with low maintenance, water use, and all of that. Yeah. And I will work with my team. I'd be happy to provide you potentially like one or two other concepts and regarding an entry monument that does not have vertical text, but rather maybe something a little bit wider that has information on local destination. So I appreciate that comment.
You're welcome. And for the mayor, I just wanted to ask, the recommendation is to receive and file, but also for direction, and I support the last paragraph in the staff report where it says, staff is requesting that if the council desires to continue with KTUA, and the staff is actually recommending it because in order to complete the uncompleted services, since there is no additional cost to the city, and I think that's an excellent reason to support the continued relationship with KTUA.
All right, is that a motion you're making?
It is.
Okay. Councilmember Wilson has some comments he'd like to make, and so I'm not going for the vote yet, but I do have a motion. Councilmember Wilson.
I agree with Councilwoman Robles. Not a fan of brick pattern.
Okay, noted. Thank you.
We have a few million skateboarders up and down, but might I suggest that we look at some? There's a colored type of concrete that you can do a wash on. And once you wash that stuff off, what it does, and in effect, it slows somebody down. And it's even. So, we've got a lot of duffers like me that like to, well, I don't like to walk, but I mean, sometimes I do. I know the mayor does, and she drags her husband around with her. So I'd like to think that we don't have the brick pattern because of that.
Okay.
Because, these funky shoes that you end up wearing when you're an old person, they kind of catch on some of that stuff. So anyway, so just a suggestion. I've done a lot of stuff out in the desert, and it seems to fare a little bit better than the brick pattern. Anyway,
great
suggestion.
I appreciate that feedback as well. I think there's plenty of designs and inspiration out there where we can do a nice concrete scoring pattern while minimizing, the use of brick, but still kind of delivering a nice pattern that just transforms that pedestrian experience. So thank you for that. It's been noted.
Okay, Mr. Duffy, you had something you wanted to add?
Yes, Mayor. I just wanted to just to remind the council that this is really one component of a number of steps you're going to be taking. So in the next couple of months, you're going to come back with the Barton Road specific plan update. And so we're coming forward with that to help with some projects, but you're actually setting the stage with this project and the Barton Road specific plan. You're setting the stage for what you're going to be requiring developers to include when they do their frontage improvements. So the goal here would be to take your concepts and things we've heard today and make that a part of the Barton Road specific plan, so it's set in stone in terms of what the developers and what we expect with the developers to lay out. because there are some opportunities from Commerce and Vivienda all the way to Canal, all the way from Canal to Barton Road. I mean, you've got a huge frontage from Mount Vernon to Canal, where you've got, you know, the grocery outlet center. You've got a lot of space there, and it's in need of a change and an enhancement. So what we can do is take these concepts and identify them block by block, and then say, this is what we want. And what we can get the developers to do and what we can do in addition is going to be very important. And so the forethought that the council had for doing this is great. Now we need to get it in a format where it's standard and everyone understands, in this block, this is what's needed. And I think as the council said, you want to have it continuously flow throughout the project. So you've got some big projects coming up that's going to be able to fill these spaces.
Thank you for that context. Councilmember Robles, you said you had another comment?
Yeah, just briefly, you know, what trees are native to Southern California? There really isn't. They were all transported from like Australia, for example, you know. So, you know, we could like want to defund the police and do tree canopies for the air, but, you know, my still counter that we have met that directive, you know, over the years doing that. And the other thing too is we have easements like over front of grocery here. I mean, that's already developed. So who's gonna do landscaping? So there would be some areas that we have some RDA fund money that maybe we need to think about investing, you know, as amenity. I mean, home property values are appreciating very well, and I just can imagine when we implement these things, what it's going to do for the desirability of this community. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Robles. Councilmember Hussey. Oh, excuse me, Mayor Pro Tem Hussey.
Thanks, Mayor. You know, like Councilmember Allen said, my concern is the upkeep. You know, like Councilmember Robles was saying, you know, having the money to upkeep these trees and stuff, because on Mount Vernon, they planted trees, and, you know, we had trees dying, and we had to replace them, or when the school's in session, sometimes, unfortunately, the kids are hanging on the trees and they break them. So that's just my main concern, the upkeep, and, you know, if it's on the Barton Road, what trees can handle the traffic, you know, small, you know, semis, you know, truck routes and stuff, so that'd be my concern on that.
Yeah.
So.
That is a very valid concern, and it's something that that's the reality check when it comes to a lot of these things. You know, I throw pretty pictures on a screen, but once they're implemented and it comes down to maintenance, right, has the city, does a specific city have the money, the dedication, the coordination to keep certain things going? And I'm hopeful and optimistic, and I trust that whatever comes about in the future with us, that's taken seriously. We're doing our due diligence to make sure that we're proposing trees that are not going to be concrete damaging because of the roots that are appropriate for the water palette, as well as, you know, that aren't going to grow too wide and to then now obstruct the travel lanes. Thankfully, you have your bike lanes already installed in Barton Road that provides that additional 5-6 feet of buffer of technical horizontal space. So that does help already, but I'll make sure that the final tree palette takes into account all of that.
Well, that, and then for traffic, because I know when they built Walgreens, and 6 years ago, we had a nice little mountain statue in the middle of that center divider, and it got hit by a car and never got replaced. So, you know, we got to think about how much that's going to cost to replace, you know, insurance costs and things like that. You know, is it going to be easy for in and out for our traffic? And, you know, we have an issue up here with a sign that people keep running over, and so I think they finally got rid of the sign. So that's just my concerns on things.
Very valid concerns.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember, Mayor Pro Tem.
Oh, I have a couple comments. With respect to, I'll go with the stamped concrete. I've heard a lot of complaints about our stamped concrete in our crosswalks from people that are on scooters or wheelchairs. Very difficult to navigate. So I do like the idea of a different coloration and those types of things, but when we go and stamp it and make it like cobblestones or bricks, I think it makes it difficult for people to navigate. Beautiful aesthetically, but we need, I am a walker, so I want to see something that's practical for walkers. And in that regard, I do like the idea of shade trees. But what would be interesting in line with what Mayor Pro Tem was saying is if there is a estimate of cost to do these types of things block by block, is there a way to estimate what the maintenance cost is if we go certain ways versus other ways? I'm not sure if that's part of what you do, but to me, that would be interesting from a decision-making perspective. Not only what's it going to cost us now, but what's the lifetime cost of it? And then if you would go back to the area where you had the entryway signs on your slides. I like the idea of narrowing down Barton Road a little bit to slow down the traffic. I can see that that's traffic calming. But if we have that entryway at Arliss before you get to Mount Vernon, from Arliss all the way down to Barton Road in Colton, that means that you've exited the city, and now you're free to go as fast as you want because nobody cares at this point. And I see that being an issue. And I understand that this design's only going to Arliss, but I don't know if that's the appropriate place for an entryway sign. I could be wrong, but it just seems like from that point forward, as people are heading east, that they might take that as, okay, I'm exiting the city and off we go. And so that would be my concern there. But I do like the idea of having the narrowing down, and I know that there are business owners that are very concerned about medians along that way. They want to make sure that people can enter and exit their business and don't have to go to a lot of trouble to get to their business. So I'm not sure how you make those two concerns work out, but certainly a narrowing with the pronounced bike paths and those types of things, and varying degrees of median along the way would be great. And those would be my comments.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that feedback.
Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Wilson.
Might just weigh in on the median issue. I agree, the business people will probably scream.
Mm-hmm.
They don't live here, but
Some do.
But they are, contributors to our economy, and we really need them. So Arizona has what they call Arizona medians. And it does allow people to go across the median if they absolutely have to. We have a real tough time with our many entrances onto Barton Road that were planned poorly when the county used to own Barton Road. And we kind of have to live with that, but we're going to have to think about some of those as well, where they, rather than a quadruple wide lane coming out onto the road, and then they're going to try to exit through a median, and it's just kind of crazy. I think the benefit of an Arizona-type crossing would outweigh the deficit for the businesses if we want to try a profile like that.
Councilmember Wilson and Council, these are all great comments. We take all of these to heart, and I just want to let you know too that this is an update. You're definitely going to be seeing the final product. In response to the median, I'll take responsibility. It was my idea. There's no other medians down Barton.
No, it's beautiful. It looks beautiful.
When you're going down, I go down there every day and I look at this massively wide painted striped thing, and it's almost like, yeah, it's not the entry to the city, but it's getting close to Mount Vernon before everybody bombs down and makes their left. And maybe we could possibly slow them down. So, they're not going 50 at this point.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's a nice addition. And then as we look towards heading east, there definitely need to be installations. I just want to be careful that it doesn't look like it's the entrance and the exit totally right there, that's all.
Well taken. We were just trying to provide a little bit of breaking it up.
I think the way that looks is very nice. Councilmember Allen.
I particularly like to commend Planning Director Weiss on this median here, because in the past, I've noticed on several occasions, folks traveling east on Barton will make an illegal left turn into that shopping center across the left turn lanes onto, Mount Vernon. And so this median will prevent that, and that's a great thing right there. I understand about getting them folks in business, but these are there's ways in and out. People will figure it out.
All right, so I have a motion by Councilmember Allen to receive and file, but also to have you come back and continue working on these. So based on staff recommendation was the motion that Councilmember Allen made, and I'll make a second to that. Any further comments? All right, Madam City Clerk. Oh, are there any requests to speak on this item?
No, Madam Mayor.
All right. Will you call roll, please, or call the vote, please?
Councilmember Allen.
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson.
Yes.
Councilmember Robles.
Yes,
Mayor Pro Tem Hussey.
Yes.
Mayor McNabo.
Yes,
Motion passes unanimously.
thank you. On to new business. Item number 8 on the agenda is the approval of an agreement between the City of Grand Terrace and Moran Janitorial Services, LLC, for facility janitorial services. Interim Director, Public Works Director Craig Bradshaw.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. This item, just to give you a little bit of background, you've actually seen this item back in October 13th of 2020. We actually awarded an extension to the Moran Janitorial contract. Let's see if we got the push button here. No, open my, Moran contract at that point. And Moran Janitorial, they reviewed the contract, and they determined it was to their advantage to decline renewing. They felt that they had incurred so many costs in the last previous 3 years that it was not desirable for them to renew. We discussed that with them, and they agreed to continue at the same rates until we submitted a request for proposals and obtained new bids, and they did. They bid on this contract. The notice of inviting bids went out November 20th, 2020, and 6 bids were received on December 14th, 2020. And in review of the proposals, shows that the A&A Janitorial Services was non-responsive to the request for proposals. A non-responsive proposal means that the proposal fails to comply with the requirements of the RFP. There are several requirements and things that were requested of those janitorial services, and they failed to respond to almost all of those questions. Of the responsive proposals received, Moran Janitorial Services offered the best proposal, addressing the full scope of work at a price of $25,020 annually. The scope of work is the cleaning of the Civic Center 3 days a week. Today, we also asked them what it would cost to clean the Civic Center restrooms 5 days a week during the COVID period, and it's an additional $640 a month, and that's perhaps something we can consider. Cleaning of the Civic Center Annex building bathrooms 1 day a week, and opening of the city parks on weekends and city holidays at 7 a.m., and cleaning parks on the weekends and city holidays at 7 a.m. and 1 p.m. And then service inspections and an annual performance review. This is the fiscal impact. There are sufficient funds in the approved fiscal year 2021 budget to cover the remainder of the fiscal year, and then it'll be reappropriated the following years. And the funds are coming through from the general fund. Our recommendation is to approve an agreement between the City of Grand Terrace and Moran Janitorial Services for facility janitorial services for a term of 3 years with 2 extensions of 1 year each for a maximum total annual cost of $25,020. And I would be glad to answer questions.
Thank you, Director Bradshaw. Are there questions? All right, no questions apparent. Any request to speak on this item?
No, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. We'll come back to council for consideration of a motion on this item.
I move approval of the agreement.
Okay. Do you want to authorize someone to sign it too?
No, I move the item.
Oh, the recommendation of staff?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Robles, second by Mayor Pro Tem Hussey. Please call the vote.
Councilmember Allen.
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson.
Yes.
Councilmember Robles.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hussey.
Yes.
Mayor McNabo.
Yes,
Motion passes unanimously.
thank you. Item number 9 is purchase and installation of park shade structures at Fitness Park through the Buy Board National Purchasing Cooperative. Director Bradshaw is up again.
The city has received several requests about adding amenities and improvements to city parks. One of the requests has been to add shade structures to fitness parks since there's a lack of natural shade. The City Council at its priorities workshop on June 12, 2020, added shade structures for playground areas at the Grand Terrace Fitness Park because of the lack of natural shade and to shield park visitors and playground equipment. To accomplish the installation of the shade structures, the following is proposed, and this is a little bit detailed, but staff proposes to purchase the park shade structure materials for the project directly from Superior Recreational Products through a governmental purchasing cooperative named the Buy Board National Purchasing Cooperative. In order to do so, the city must join the Buy Board National Purchasing Cooperative by adopting a resolution electing to join and entering into an interlocal participation agreement. And we also request to utilize informal bidding procedures to hire a contractor for the installation of the structural poles and shade structures. To fund the cost of the materials and the installation of the shade structures, it is proposed to allocate $100,000 from bond proceeds from the 2011A bond proceeds. The proposal, and we've attached the proposal for the shade structure materials. The proposal includes the schematic design locations for 6 columns and 3 shade cells, and Superior Recreational Products is providing the materials at Buy Board's government pricing, which is a competitive pricing process, minus a 10% discount. The total cost of materials, shipping, and tax is approximately $49,000. Once the materials are purchased, the city would then informally bid the installation of the materials, and the cost of the installation is estimated to be approximately $50,000. Total cost with material purchase and installation is approximately $100,000. And here's a picture of Fitness Park. Here's a diagram of the shade cells. And there's 6 poles and 3 cells, and it covers a large portion of the park. And there are numerous shade colors, and we'd love to your help in picking a color. And city manager can jump in if you'd like to get some ideas.
I think purple would be good.
I agree.
Councilmember Allen?
Do we know if there's any advantage on durability or longevity or maybe the shade provided over by any of the colors?
Maybe ones that don't fade very easily.
They all have the same warranty. I believe it was a 10-year warranty.
Yeah.
I mean, these shade cells are 16 to 20 feet above the ground. They're fairly high, so I'm not sure there's a difference between heat being collected underneath or anything else.
Okay.
That's the problem.
It seems to me that the darker ones might collect the heat, but I don't know if that makes it, as you were saying, warmer underneath it if they're if they're bringing in. It seems to me that the lighter colors would be something that we would rather look at.
Yeah, they are above head a bit, so I'm not sure that would be
What color
significant.
is gonna be the less, like when it gets dirty and stuff?
That's true. Which ones don't show the color or don't show the dirt?
Dirt.
Black.
Well, I think it would, if we get a lot of dust in there, though, the black ones would kind of get a brown look to them. When there's a chance for public speaking, you may come up and suggest that.
Oh, yeah, I think we should go city colors.
Okay, so were you really just wanting free flow?
You can be thinking about it, and if we can get some ideas, that would be helpful.
Might be nice if this went to the Park and Rec Committee for them to come up with a suggestion for us at this point. Councilmember Allen.
Do we get to choose the color of the poles?
The poles also have.
Well, yeah, the powder coat.
There's a powder coat also for the poles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in fact, the next slide probably has, it's in our packet. There's all the different colors for the powder coat.
And I'll let everyone know I'm very colorblind, so don't listen to me make any suggestions.
I think the poles should be a color that's easily seen so they won't run into them, like yellow or something.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Can we just put shade trees there?
All right, so when do you need to have the colors chosen?
We've actually have some time. We'll get into the timeline. We'll probably have a couple of months before we really need to know colors.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on. The timeline. In December 17th, we executed a purchase order for $1,200 for structural design and stamped plans, and we actually just received those today. In January 12th, that's today, assuming the city approves the proposed resolution, we would be issuing a purchase order to Superior Recreational Products in the amount of approximately $49,000. And then Superior Recreational Products will order materials. There's an 8 to 10 week lag for ordering columns. And there's approximately a 3 to 4 week lag time for custom cells. And so January 18th, we will be out to bid. We'll be out to bid as quickly as possible for the project. February 23rd, we would award the contract, and the poles would be installed sometime in March 2020. Oops, that should be 2021. We got a couple dates wrong, years wrong. Precise measurements are provided to Superior Recreational Products for the fabrication of park cell and shade material. So April, May, we would receive the cells, and they would be fabricated cells, and then they could be installed in June. The project would be complete. So it's kind of a long timeline due to the sequencing of the project. Fiscal impact. We're recommending the City Council approve the appropriation of $100,000 from the General Fund 2011 bond proceeds. There's the details. Recommendations. The city recommends that the City Council consider waiving the city's competitive bidding procedures. And if such competitive bidding procedures are waived, then 1, adopt the attached resolution electing to join by board and approving the interlocal participation agreement. 2, approve the purchase of park shade structure materials by purchase order as described herein. Number 3, authorize staff to advertise the Grand Terrace Fitness Park Shade Project. Number 4, adopt the attached resolution finding the project is consistent with the requirements of the 2011 tax allocation bond, and authorizing expenditure of $100,000 of such proceeds for use on this project. And finally, appropriate $100,000 from the General Fund 2011 bond proceeds balance and for the purchase and installation of the park shade structures at the Grand Terrace Fitness Park. And that concludes my presentation.
All right, my question is, will you go back to that picture of the fitness park? I believe I think this is in our packet, and I was looking at this thinking that the shades might somehow, one of the considerations might be that they go either with the playground material on the ground, something similar, or that would go with that, or then when you look at the actual playground equipment, it's quite colorful, and maybe that's a color scheme as well. Just something to say. I'm just throwing that out there as an idea, but I also think that maybe it might be a nice discussion for our Park and Rec committee to play around with and come up with, and maybe even that could be advertised for the public so that they could come and weigh in as well, or they could send in some ideas, what they think. Any questions right now of council? Councilmember Hussey, or Mayor Pro Tem Hussey. I will get that right by the end of this meeting, I promise.
It'll be a different appointed than time you get it done.
Excuse me?
I won't be appointed Mayor Pro Tem time you get it right.
No, I said by the end of this meeting. But if you want me to take longer, I certainly will.
Question I have is, the price. Do you think that's a fair price for this shade?
We looked at the pricing. The price from the bid board, they're obtaining the poles and the fabric material. There are 6 poles, and there's only about 3 places in the country that actually manufacture these poles. And I think that price tag was right around $40,000. The sales was about $9,000. Looking at it, I know the poles are a very competitive price. And the cell material with fabrication and they're value adding. They were purchasing the cell material off the bid board using their pricing, and then we're saving 10% off the cells and the poles off this intergovernmental pricing bid board. And so I think it's all very competitive, and we're getting value-added design. The design's thrown on top of it. The design is really pretty much free with the exception of the structural design and stamp plans. That costs us $1,200, so I think it's very competitive.
It says 10-year warranty, so is that going to be the shelf life of this thing? You think we're going to get 10 years out of this?
It says it's warranted for 10 years, so I would think so. I would think that probably at the end of the 10 years, you're probably going to have to be starting to looking at replacing them.
It says 1 year unlimited warranty. I'm just wondering during those 10 years, each year they,
Prorated.
degrade it, and so much more money it's going to cost to replace it.
It's going to be a similar price, I would think. It's going to be about $9,000. Of course, inflation over 10 years.
It's definitely needed, but, I was just wondering about the price and stuff. Thank you.
Okay.
Councilmember Allen?
Well, in 10 years, those shade trees we planted will be big enough to take over, so those ones you see in that picture right there. So that way you won't have to worry about it.
All right, further questions at this time?
I just want to make a comment.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
It takes a second.
That's fine. Go.
Yellow and cream shade cover are, it's only 76 and 74% compared to the others.
Okay.
So that's a consideration.
Absolutely. Councilmember Wilson.
Direct this question, these two questions, as city manager. We know how hard fought these monies were, and I need to ask the last smell questions. How does this wipe out urban blight? Because these are funds that were set aside for this.
Well, I believe that those funds can be used for the purpose of which the bonds were let out. And so park development, urban blight, I think it actually does fall into that category.
You think, but we know for sure?
Yeah, we know for sure that it does fall into that.
Okay, so we're not going to get caught
No.
down the line, okay. And then I guess the other thing is, and this is for more future thinking, how does this expense, $100,000 for a bunch of plastic parachutes? I realize we do things in the city because we want to just enjoy them, period. So you don't count those off on the value of the overall value of the city. But in this case, how does this increase our value of hard improvements? Because we've had this discussion under this dais about if you put in sewer, you put storm drain in, you put curb in, you add all this stuff up and you say this is the collateralized value of our city. And it means something. Is this something that we can count against this because it's only got a 10-year shelf life?
Well, I think that the warranty it covers it for that 10 years, but we've had shelters throughout the city that have lasted longer, and we have three different sales there, so the replacement cost is not going to be the $40,000 for the entire thing. And one of the components here, the reason why it's cost so much is that you had to get engineering plans and construction, at prevailing wage to get that stuff done. And in terms of the quality of life and in terms of having the best parks available as possible, you look at this park and you look at the amenities that are there and the amenities that are coming in the future, and you look at trying to create some safe space where we don't have a canopy there. And that area, the playground area is so large, you're not going to get a canopy to cover that, shade that area. Remember during the initial discussions of this, the concerns that you had were that playground equipment, it's very hot during the summertime, hot to the touch for kids playing on there. And so this will certainly, I would imagine, increase the use of that playground equipment at that park. And that park is, that's one of the hidden jewels that the city has. And when it was really done and all the landscaping was complete, it was very, very nice. And this is just going to add to the park.
Okay, but it is a gimme. I mean, it's a quality of life item. It's not something that we can point to and say, this is part of our value as a city, other than just recreational.
Well, I think it's part of our values as a city to have a safe and a park where people can go and utilize equipment year-round.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Robles?
This will, I mean, well, we don't have continuity of stuff, but the fitness park was a low-income competitive grab for the poor area, correct? And then RDA monies can be used for areas that are disadvantaged, and which would include a recreational amenity. And then would you recall how much we spent on the rubberized flooring for Rollins Park?
$116,000.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Hussey.
I guess comment and question, Mr. Duffy, with this shade, it's going to increase the lifespan of the playground equipment?
I think you'll see, that equipment's exposed directly to the sun. So you'll see it start to fade, and this will reduce that fading time because of it's being shielded. So I guess you're absolutely right.
And let me just emphasize what the Councilman Robles, I think the biggest thing, that's why we did the flooring on the playground at Richard Rawlings, is because of public safety, kids not getting hurt. So like she said, the kids not getting, and you said, not burning themselves, getting hurt, overheated, heat exhaustion, stuff. So I think that's a big plus for the shade.
Yeah, and it's just like that, as you guys mentioned, the playground at Richard Rawlings Park. By you doing that rubberized surface, you increase the play area dramatically, because it was just bark there. So you only had the equipment, and now the kids are tumbling and they're rolling around, and you have a lot more use there. That's the same thing's going to happen when you put the shade up. There's going to be use there continuously, because they won't be worried about the parents won't be worried about the heat burning the kids.
Exactly. All right, thank you.
All right, any further questions? All right, at this time I will open public comment, and I believe that there's a member of the public who'd like to come forward and speak. You both may. Since there wasn't a request to speak form, if you'll just state your name before you speak, that would be wonderful.
Bring it down here to the short people's level. Hi, my name's Tammy Madison, and I was, obviously some of you know me, some of you don't. So I have two comments. Number one, I think that we should go with the city colors, because I think that would look really nice there. And number two, according to the trees, this is just my opinion, for those of you that don't know our history here, we were established by orange groves. So with some orange trees along the city, I think would look really nice, and just putting that out there. And so I guess that's it for now. But thank you guys very much for everything that you guys did for my dad. Sorry, I thought I could hold it
Do
together.
we have a tissue, maybe a bottle of water?
Thank you very much. Thank you guys very much. So I appreciate all your support for the city and everything else that you're doing for the city, and I just wanted to kind of say that. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Madison. I'm sorry that we made you cry.
Oh, you didn't make me cry. It's just that, we just buried him. So.
I appreciate you coming forward and sharing your comments so that everyone can hear them. Thank you so much. Any other requests to speak at this time?
No, Madam Mayor.
All right. So we'll close public comment and bring it back to council for consideration of a motion.
Mayor,
Councilmember Allen.
I'll make a motion for all 6 of the, oh, wait a minute, it's adopt a resolution and authorize, adopt a resolution. So it's 2 resolutions, and anyway, all of the staff, all of the recommendation. I'll make the motion.
All right, thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, so motion for staff recommendation by Councilmember Allen, second by Mayor Pro Tem Hussey. Any final discussion? All right, please call the vote.
Councilmember Allen?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
No.
Councilmember Robles?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hussey?
Yes.
Mayor McNabo?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 10, which is consideration of a resolution updating permit fees for transportation and encroachment permits issued pursuant to chapters 12.08 and 12.20 of the municipal code. And we have one more time, Director Bradshaw.
Good evening. I should also mention, as I'm starting, Louis Gardia is in the audience. He's our permit technician. He's been doing that for about 3 years, and we work very closely together on this report. And so there may be some questions I cannot answer. Louis is here to help us out. A little bit of background. Fees were last formally reviewed in 2006. Staff was instructed to review the fee structure, and there are several goals with this process. We wanted to streamline the process. We wanted to update the encroachment permit fees to capture actual cost of providing services, and we want to include the processing of the permit, the plan check, and all inspections, and update the transportation permit fees. The purpose of the fees, the primary purpose of the fees is for inspection. Inspection is necessary for public safety, reduce city liability, and reduce maintenance costs. And another very important purpose is to manage the city's public right-of-way. The city cannot manage the right-of-way without the permitting process. And just note, the resolution that you have before you tonight only addresses the fee structure. There's 4 different categories of fees that we reviewed. There's transportation permits, haul permits. Is under transportation permits, there were 5 of those issued this past year. Transportation permits, 10 were issued this past year. And then there's the other category is encroachment permits. As far as encroachment permits goes, we issued 64 of those. And so that's the primary permit that gets issued is the encroachment permit. And then there's also a minor encroachment permit that's kind of a variation. And there were 11 of those issued this past year. The haul permit is typically used for mass grading our large moving operations within the city. It requires the use of truck routes and requires legal weights and is typically specific times of day. And the transportation permit fee, this is for people moving trucks and that moving through the city. And they're oversized vehicles and loads. It requires legal weights. And they're typically, these typically happen late night or early morning moves. And they utilize California Highway Patrol assistance. And these are state mandated fees. And we're only allowed to charge a small amount on those permits. Under the encroachment permit category, encroachment permits are primarily short-term utility work in the public right-of-way. Although it could be anybody that wants to work in the right-of-way. It could be a homeowner or a developer. Those all would fall under the encroachment permit category. They typically involve street cuts and repairs. And the utilities that we most often deal with are Edison, Riverside Water, Sempra Energy, the gas company, and there's several telecom companies. The minor encroachment permits are kind of special circumstances. It's for widening of driveways, installation of curb drains. It's primarily a homeowner-driven permit. Okay, there's a kind of a 2 permit processes going on here throughout this resolution. The streamlined process, of all those permits, approximately 90% of those permits will fall into the streamlined process. We estimate days of work up to 20 days, and we charge a fee based on a fee to cover the plan check, permit processing, and inspection. And then the other permit process is the direct base process, and there's only about 10% of those permits that we issued fall under this category. All permits that are over 20 days of work, all permits with unusual plan check or inspection requirements, and these require tracking of all the time and require a deposit account that we bill against. Here's the haul permit fee, the study that we performed. We looked at a number of cities, and the fee that's being proposed for Grand Terrace that we determined based on the amount of time we spend is $330. It's an issuance fee and includes the first day of inspection. Comparing those with City of Redlands, we are quite a bit higher, 346% higher. City of San Bernardino, they're at $400. We're about 21% lower than them. And City of Ontario, we're about almost 20% lower than them also. And City of Ontario has, they also include 6% construction cost, which is pretty substantial, which we did not include. The transport fee comparison is really simple. Every city the state mandate is $16 for one oversized vehicle coming through the city. There's also a category for an annual permit, which we generally do not like to issue because we lose complete control of those vehicles and when they come through. That's $90, and also multiple trips with the oversized is also $90. And those are all state fees. Then there's the basic encroachment permit fee. City of Grand Terrace proposed fee is $442. That's the issuance fee. Includes the first day of inspection. City of Redlands, about 9% higher. City of San Bernardino, 11% lower. Ontario is 50% higher, plus their 6% construction cost. Rialto's 18% lower. City of Riverside is 90% higher. So they're kind of all over the place. Just to give you some idea of some sample, we're talking about the major permits. Here's some sample utility cuts and repairs. The one on the left is actually Garden Avenue. This is not really a very good utility cut. It really deteriorates the street. It does not follow the county or the city standards that we have adopted. And the one on the right is actually that we're looking through. It's the same street, but on Pico, we have a proper utility cut. And a much different looking patch. It preserves the street, and it really it doesn't increase our maintenance costs. Okay, and the minor encroachment permit fee, we're proposing $201 issuance fee which includes the first day of inspection. Redlands is $122, about 40% lower. City of San Bernardino, $61, 70% lower. A number of cities did not have equivalent fees. City of Riverside is $108, so they're about 46% lower. Those that don't have an equivalent fee would be charging the same encroachment permit fee. We should have probably included those, and they are substantially higher. Here's a comparison of the fees. Prior, we've been charging for the basic color permit $185. That's proposed that we go to $333 for issuance and first day of inspection. Additional days are $146. Transport fee remains the same because of the state requirement. Encroachment permit fee, we were charging $312. Issuance proposed is $442. Issuance and first day inspection, and then additional days is $146. Minor encroachment is, we've been charging $185. Proposed is $201 for issuance and first day of inspection, and $73 for additional days. And here's a sample calculation for, this is for an encroachment permit, item number 3. So if there's 6 days of work, we would charge the $442 the first day, then we charge 5 times the $146 for a total of $1,672. That would be the typical permit issuance. How we'd handle those up to the 20 days if they fit into the category. Additional revenue with fee increases revenue by about $9,000. And we determined that approximately the average number of days is 2 days, and so we determined 2 days, an additional day for all those permit categories. That adds another $11,680. So roughly about $21,000 in additional revenue. And just a few notes. Additional revenue is required to offset staff costs for plan check, permitting and inspections. And we want to have, there needs to be funds for inspections after the first day. There needs to be funds for inspections of the trenches when they're opened up and when they're make sure they're properly closed. And it's really up to the inspector to ensure that we don't have bad street cuts. And also poorly repaired utility trenches increases city's liability and road maintenance costs. Recommendations that adopt a resolution updating city's transportation and encroachment permits. And I'd be glad to answer questions.
Questions of staff? Councilmember Hussey. Excuse me, Mayor Pro Tem Hussey.
I don't know if this will be part of the fee question, but, the question is on I guess your inspections. I mean, when they're out there making their cuts, how do you know that they came by to the city and got a permit? Because I've walked too, like the mayor and her husband, and I see cuts all the time. And I'm just wondering how we maintain that. Do we have, I talked to many code enforcement go by and check to make sure they have their permits?
Yes, there needs to be a penalty phase. I don't believe that. We'll have to look in the code and see if that's included somewhere. If we catch anyone that's doing work in the street, we expect them to come in and pull permit immediately. If it's a utility that's doing work without permits and notification, we need to take care of it and get it resolved promptly, or we will call corporate and they're in violation of their franchise, not pulling the permits.
Well, some of the utilities are subcontract.
Right.
So
Another thing that we are looking at implementing is requiring the primary utility be the one that has insurance cert on file. And all their subs work under for example, if it's Edison, all their subs would work under Edison, and we'd be using their insurance cert. That way we wouldn't have to deal with checking insurance, and we know who to go to. That's one way that would help solve that issue.
Okay. Because, like my main concern that, besides you see the cuts on the roads is, the issues, and I don't want the residents, taxpayers here get hit with a bill out of our general fund to fix something that they should have took care of. So
yeah, correct. And it can be very dangerous. I mean, all these permits require a traffic control and some sort of traffic control plan, and someone needs to check and ensure that is happening, and the repairs have to be done properly, or it creates a liability for the city.
All right, last question. Yearly, I mean, just like with Edison and the gas company and everything, utilities, they increase us every year. Is it, when was the last time we had a fee increase for permits with the city? Was it last year?
The fees that I gave you, we've been collecting for the last about 3 years.
So it's been about 3 years?
Yeah, I think the original ordinance goes quite a ways back, but we were collecting an hourly basis for about the last 3 years.
So 3 years since we raised our fees?
I think the original fee was clear back in 2006.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Allen.
Thanks, Mayor. So there's, as you're probably aware, Mr. Bradshaw, there's 2 letters we received, one from SoCal Gas and one from Edison, and they both they both read like copies, but they actually both ask the same thing. They have concerns about what we're doing right now, about the encroachment permit fees, I think it is, and they want us to consider using their franchise payments as a deposit on the encroachment permits and exempting franchise utilities from the proposed utility encroachment permit fees. How would that impact or have an effect on on the amount of, I guess, is that going to impact anything that we just talked about? Amount of revenue, or what's the reason for submitting these letters to us?
Mr. City Attorney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, what is before the council tonight is how the fees are calculated. We're not addressing who's paying the fees. That is already established in the municipal code. As you recall, a few months ago, we took the fees out of the municipal code so we could do it easily by resolution, and we can update them regularly every few years. So what the gas company and Edison are asking for is address who is paying for it. That's not before the council tonight. Secondly, what I think they're looking at is there's a concept in franchises that they have the right to install their pipeline, their infrastructure, and they have the absolute right to do that. We don't dispute that. And they're thinking that we are charging them fees for the right to do that. That is preempted by the franchise ordinance. I have not looked at the Edison one. I did see the gas company one, but that's consistent with their franchise. What we are charging is inspection fees only, because we as a city want to ensure that when they do go in, they are doing it correct, doing it consistently with our specifications. That's all. And we do have the right to manage our public right-of-way. And as Mr. Bradshaw shows those two pictures, there's a right way of doing it and a wrong way of doing it. All we want to do is be able to inspect to ensure it's being done correctly. So in my estimation, there's no action that is needed today or change in direction based on what staff is recommending. I am happy if council directs to look into both of them a little further, and I can work with them to make sure they understand what the city's action is doing tonight.
Okay, so these two utilities concerns are not even being addressed by this subject. Is that what you're saying?
That is my understanding,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Wilson.
It's because it's apples and oranges, as you just so clearly explained. My understanding, and you can correct me, Mr. Public Works Man, the initial purpose of the permit is to trigger, something's happening in the street. I mean, we don't run around the streets all the time, and if we paid you to do it, it'd be prohibitively expensive. And that triggers that notice. Then they go in there and they start doing stuff in order to be able to get that encroachment permit released, especially if it has a deposit behind it. They have to adhere to our laws. They have to make sure they do it right. If we even make them slurry the stuff down because we've got a really big street, like Barton Road or something, and we're not sure what the underlying is like, we might make them slurry. And they may not be too happy with that, but they're not going to get their encroachment permit released until then. That's the whole point of it, is to have this kind of a process. And their other deposit that they've got up, or their franchise fee, has purely to do with their right to be able to go in to inhabit the space. And that's all. So that's why it's apples and oranges. That's the whole point behind it. And trying, as we already have seen over the years, we've got great testimony to what happens to pavement that is absolutely destroyed, not only because of too much wear, but also because of really bad underlayment. And most of that happened in the county situation. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. My question is, with the inspection process, are you saying that we are not in a position where we do inspections at all right now?
We do inspections, particularly the first day. There have not been really good follow-up inspections. This will ensure that we have funds to do follow-up inspections.
Okay, and what will we have in place to make sure that the inspections are timely so that we are not extending the project?
The plan is to have an inspector here at least a couple hours every day.
All right, any further questions? All right, I know we have at least two people waiting to speak to us.
Actually, Christine Scott is from SoCalGas, and Mark Cloud is
Exactly, yeah, I recognize the name. So we'll go to our callers and we'll begin with Christine Scott.
Ms. Scott, if you could please unmute.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. I am Christine Scott, Senior Public Affairs Manager for SoCalGas. Due to the pandemic and being part of a utility, we are unable to be there in person this evening, but I wanted to express our concerns regarding the proposed permit fees, particularly our concern regarding the deposit-based fee for the 20 days or greater. As you have already mentioned, the letter we sent since 1979, SoCalGas has had a franchise agreement with the city of Grand Terrace. Every April, we pay the city approximately between $20,000 to $40,000 in annual franchise fees, which allows us the right to work in the public right away. What we would like the council to consider our franchise fee payment as what you're calling a deposit fee using that as a deposit towards our encroachment permit for jobs over 20 days. Just like we do now, SoCal Gas will continue to pay for permits pulled in addition to our annual fees. We would also ask the City Council to consider exempting franchise utilities from the proposed encroachment permit deposit-based fee, as we should not be subjected to additional deposits. For more than 150 years, we've been providing clean, safe, and reliable natural gas to customers throughout SoCal. We are not going anywhere. We guarantee our work as outlined in our franchise agreement. If there's something that we fail to do or doesn't meet the expectations, we guarantee our work. We're not perfect, but we try to do it the first time right. We also want to ensure that the community we serve are safe and doing everything we can to make sure they continue to be safe. We appreciate and respect the partnership we have with the City of Grand Terrace, and we really appreciate the thought that went into this and making sure that we can streamline the process. And we thank you again for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. I appreciate you staying on the phone all this time to speak to this issue. Our next speaker is Mark Cloud, and he's from Southern California Edison.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. Mark Cloud, Government Affairs Manager from Southern California Edison. I will echo the sentiment of my counterparts, Christine Scott, the gas company. We are prohibited from meeting with you in person. Hopefully, when this is all over, we can start to see your lovely faces again and meet you in person. But as for now, it'll be over the phone. So I won't repeat what Christine Scott said, even though we're on the same page there. It does sound like you're not taking action tonight, which is good. It sounds like there's a little bit of room for dialogue. And if that's true, I'd like to just let you know that we'd be happy to talk about this with city staff down the road, or as soon as you'd like, to ensure that we're all on the same page and come to some kind of an understanding on what is being proposed. And that's all I'll add. We feel the same way that the gas company feels about fees for franchise utilities like ours. So you have our letter, and it's there. I'm sure it's on file, so feel free to read it. And thanks so much for the opportunity to bring this to your attention tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Cloud. I appreciate you hanging on the phone, waiting for this item, and your comments. Any other requests to speak on this item?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so we'll close public comment and bring it back to council for consideration of a motion.
So, Mayor, I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution of the City Council of the City of Grand Terrace updating the fees and rates for the city's hauling permit, transportation permit, encroachment permit, and minor encroachment permit pursuant to Grand Terrace Municipal Code sections 4.48.020, 4.48.030, and 4.52010, 12.08.050, 12.08.060, 12.08.080, 12.08.260, 12.20.070, 12.20.180.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Allen, second by Councilmember Wilson. Please call the vote.
Councilmember Allen?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Robles? Yes. Mayor Pro Tem Hussey?
Yes.
Mayor McNamara?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. On to item H, request for future agenda items by City Council. We have one tonight, and so under this section, pursuant to the requirements of the Brown Act, no items may be considered other than those listed below. Mayor Pro Tem Bill Hussey is asking us to consider bringing back onto the agenda discussion about creating an ad hoc committee for the relocation of wild burros. Mayor Pro Tem.
As mayor, I do a lot of walking by the area where we're having the wild burro problems, and also in my neighborhood alone, they've been coming through. And my main concern on this was once the COVID is over and traffic comes back for the high schools and throughout the city, that public safety, somebody's going to get hurt if they do hit one of those wild donkeys. And I know Mr. Duffy's been working on this, but I think that if we had a council member or somebody else work with Mr. Duffy on this with Riverside County and KB Homes, it might help pull some merit on there. So that was just my thinking, what can we do to also help to take care of the situation? So one, so nobody gets hurt, and two, so we could preserve their habitat, because what happened is that they closed, I would believe, over 20 acres. They just enclosed the area where they've been roaming, and the donkeys are moving into neighborhoods and on the streets. I got pictures of where they're on Mount Vernon, middle of daylight, just stopping traffic, and that's one of our main throw-throughs. So I know, like I said, Mr. Duffy's been working on it, and it's been in the newspaper and the news, so I'd just like to see if the council, if we need to step up and help them out with the situation.
Okay, so your motion is to bring this back for a discussion about whether to create that ad hoc, and that's your motion. So for sake of vote, I will second that. Will you call the vote?
Councilmember Allen?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Robles? Yes. Mayor Pro Tem Hesse?
Yes.
Mayor McNamara?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, so next is our city council communications. We'll begin with Councilmember Jeff Allen.
Thanks, Mayor. I just, I wanted to welcome everybody back from New Year and hope everyone had a good holiday season. I participated, or I went and observed Grand Terrace High School seniors hike up Blue Mountain this past Saturday. And then I hiked up Blue Mountain to the top after their hike was over with. They had a great event. They were all so motivated, and there's a video on social media. If any of you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it so you get an idea of what they did. But the one thing I want to say about it is I want to commend the organizers and all the students, because I climb Blue Mountain a lot, and I will tell you that that mountain is cleaner after those seniors came down than it was when they went up. When they said, I just was really impressed with their respect for Blue Mountain and their conscientiousness to make sure that they left no trace, and they did exactly that, and they had a great event. And that's all, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Allen. Councilmember Doug Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to extend my thanks to the Sheriff's Department for all their efforts in relation to the speed situation. I wish there was some way you could do something about the noise, but we'll get one thing at a time. That's the most important thing. I get the noise situation is really ours. So anyway, thank you. Don't be a stranger on Observation Drive. But that's great. Thank you. You guys have been great.
Thank you, Councilmember Wilson. Councilmember Sylvia Robles.
Yes, I just also want to wish everyone a happy new year, and we pray for our country through these difficult times we're going through on a health scale and political way. Also, because it wasn't a question, I wanted to also thank you. I was really struck by your empathy for the homeless people and the efforts you're doing, and also for the sheriff services you're providing. I was very appreciative of that. I also wanted to brag, I forgot to brag, my granddaughter Mia that swore me in, she's a senior this year for Grand Terrace High, and she's really appreciated, and it's brought a lot of enthusiasm for her senior year in lieu of what, hasn't been able to happen. And I want to, also thank all of you for providing that, and the parents that have been just really out there making sure these kids have as normal as a year as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Robles. Mayor Pro Tem Bill Hussey.
Yeah, I want to thank, like you said, for the senior hike. I mean, and what Councilman Robles said, I feel for these seniors, what they have to do, and I know that, one of the biggest things is the camaraderie and the get-together and stuff, so I'm glad the seniors got to get together and they organized that. But I also want to thank the Girl Scouts Troop 76. I got this little plant delivered to me, and it's really neat, and my wife said make sure I bring it home because she loves it. But also, I know a lot of us made New Year's resolutions about losing weight, and the Girl Scouts are selling their cookies January 22nd. So one way to get out of it, not eating them, is to donate them, and they usually, donate it to the law enforcement, first responders, and the military. So they help the Girl Scouts out. It's always for a good cause. And, I wish everybody a happy and blessed New Year. And my prayers and thoughts are for all the families who did lose loved ones during the COVID. We recently had another family member succumb to COVID, and she was like another mother. But, it's hard times, and, just pray for everybody, their comfort. And God bless you all. God bless Grand Terrace. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Hussey. On January 6th, SBCTA Board found that parcels of the property that was encumbered during the construction of our interchange were going to be considered San Bernardino, or were going to be considered surplus. That means they no longer need them for construction, staging, storage, or mitigation, and they will be for sale. So we authorized the disposition of the surplus properties in accordance with the protocol outlined in their real estate property policy, and that means that there's an opportunity for the city to do something with those surplus properties, or some of the business owners, depending on their location. So that's all good news. And then I wanted to just say a few words about our former mayor, Byron Madison. And this comes from his obituary. He died on December 14th at the age of 83. And Byron, or Mayor Madison, was born in Wisconsin in 1937. He's a former elected official, a great-grandfather, and moved to the small San Bernardino County city in the 1940s. According to this obituary that was placed in the newspaper, he attended Grand Terrace Elementary School, Colton High School, San Bernardino Valley College, and Cal State San Bernardino. Madison founded a number of businesses, including the Jiffy Boy restaurant in 1965. He had All-State Business Forms and Instant Printing that he founded in 1978. He was part of the founding of Inland Community Bank, Bear Tanning, and Bear Elegance hair salons in the 1980s. He was a father of two, and he served on the Grand Terrace City Council from 1984 to 1998. And that was during the time where the mayor was appointed by the council. He served as mayor for 12 years. Madison was a member of many organizations, and he was a leader of many of those organizations as well. Those included the Rotary Club, the Traders Club of the Inland Empire, Colton JCs, and other similar professional organizations. In addition to being a member of the Chamber of Commerce in Grand Terrace, he also was a member of Chambers of Commerce in Colton and San Bernardino. He was active in charitable groups such as the Lions Club, the 2030 Club, Rolling Start, Grand Terrace 4-H, and the Guide Dogs of the Desert. Madison is survived by his children, Tamara, or Tammy, who we heard from tonight, and Mark Madison. His significant other, Barbara Mindham, and his sister, Donna McFarland. And one of the things that I knew about Byron, I had an opportunity to serve with him just for a very short time on Lions Club. And two things I appreciated about him is anytime we had a speaker or somebody that was speaking, he always listened to what they had to say. And he always had a way to engage with the speaker or the person that was giving the program, whether it was through asking a question or adding something to what they had to say. The other thing that I remember about him is he was very fond of Christmas caroling. And I understand that he was the driver behind our local Grand Terrace Lions who used to go to the senior centers and the rehabilitation centers and sing Christmas carols at Christmas time. And that was a very nice memory that I had of him. Further, on a different note, I want to add that my thoughts and prayers are with Colton Mayor Frank Navarro and his wife Mary Lou as they recover from COVID-19. It's affected a lot of people that we know of and a lot of our residents. And let's just hope that the vaccine is a way that this can start to be alleviated. So I'll end with that, except to say Happy New Year and return to our agenda where we have City Manager Communications.
Thank you, Mayor. So for tonight's City Manager's update, I'm going to quickly talk about one of the CARES Act funded programs that the council approved. This is a program for youth sports. And one of the things, goals for this program is to try to assist our local leagues in meeting some of the CDC guidelines as they participate in sports. So make a game plan to reduce the risk. This is what the CDC says. There is an increased risk of COVID-19 spread while playing team sports. There are always ways to reduce this risk. Mask use, wear masks that cover your mouth and nose at all times. Extortion level, limit high-intensity activities to the outdoors. Frequently touch surfaces and shared equipment or gear. Wipe off equipment, touch faces equipment or gear with disinfectant wipes before and after use. Clean your hands. Wash your hands with soap and water for 20 seconds or use the sanitizer with at least 60% alcohol before and after using machines. So as we look at the various types of sports, whether it's skill building, if it's team practice, all the way to competition, one of the things that we thought we would try to do is try to come up with a program to be able to assist our leagues with some of the equipment. So what we've purchased is a number of thermometers that each sports league will have several of these to be able to pass out and be able to take the student's temperature at the time. We have disinfectant wipes. We have masks, various types of masks that we'll be able to distribute to all the teams, to the coaches and to the parents. And then we also have this little backpack with a water bottle, mask, and some little alcohol wipes and a different kind of a safety mask with sanitizer. So we'll be giving, we have 400 of these that we'll be giving away to the various leagues. We'll be notifying the leagues this week that we have these packets ready for them. And so if you have any questions, I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Duffy. Questions? Okay. Very nice. Thank you very much. And I think the leagues will appreciate that. So our next item is a recess to closed session. We have 2 items of business. First one is conference with real property negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8. Property is 22582 City Center Court, APN 0277161130. City Negotiator G. Harold Duffy, City Manager. Negotiating parties, San Bernardino County Fire Department. Under negotiation, price and terms of payment. Item number 2 is conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. Agency designated representatives, G. Harold Duffy, City Manager, Adrian R. Guerra, City Attorney, Colin Tanner, Deputy City Attorney. Unrepresented employees include City Manager, Assistant City Manager, City Clerk, Senior Civil Engineer, Director, Planning and Development Services, Management Analyst, 2 positions, Senior Accountant, 2 positions, Finance, Accounting Manager, and Assistant Planner. So if you are not here with us when we return, the next regular City Council meeting will be held on Tuesday, January 26, 2021 at 6 p.m. And any request to have an item placed on a future agenda must be made in writing and submitted to the City Clerk's office. And the request will be processed in accordance with council procedures. Also note that we are closing tonight in memory of resident and former Mayor Byron Madison. Please keep his family and friends in your prayers. So at this time, we will recess to closed session. The council met in closed session for 2 items. The first with a conference with real property negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8. Property is 22582 City Center Court, APN 0277-161-30. City Negotiator G. Harold Duffy, City Manager. Negotiating parties, San Bernardino County Fire Department. Under negotiation, price and terms of payment. No reportable actions on this item. Item number 2 is conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. Agency designated representatives, G. Harold Duffy, City Manager, Adrian R. Guerra, City Attorney, Colin Tanner, Deputy City Attorney, unrepresented employees, City Manager, Assistant City Manager, City Clerk, City Civil Engineer, Director and Development Services, Director Planning and Development Services, Management Analyst, 2 positions, Senior Accountant, 2 positions, Finance Accounting Manager, and Assistant Planner. No reportable actions. So at this time, we will adjourn our meeting to the next regular City Council meeting to be held Tuesday, January 26, 2021 at 6 p.m. Any request to have an item placed on a future agenda must be made in writing and submitted to the City Clerk's office, and the request will be processed in accordance with council procedures. Please note, we are closing in memory of resident and former Mayor Byron Madison. Please keep his family and friends in your prayers. And one last thing, Mayor Pro Tem Hussey, my apologies for my inability to remember the change in our structure. And it just, I think that might help. No, just know that it's nothing personal. It's just my habit that I have to give up. So the quarter jar might be a good idea. I like that. Anyway, thank you very much. Happy New Year to everybody, and we are adjourned.